How to Deal with Manipulative People. By Sarah Goldberg. Introduction. A female friend once dragged me along with her to shop, casually mentioning that she needed an eyeliner pencil. We stopped by a popular cosmetics counter, and just before my friend made her choice, a lady came up to us and said, "Your eyeliner looks smudged, and your foundation seems to be sliding off. You should obviously be using this mineral powder foundation instead of cream-based foundation. It is more suitable for your skin type." Having grown up self-conscious about her looks, my friend quickly looked at her reflection in the mirror. Seeing my friend, the lady promptly handed her a jar of powder and then suggested that she try smudge and waterproof eyeliner that would look best with lengthening mascara that's guaranteed not to give her spider lashes. Instead of her $10 budget for the emergency makeup trip, she ended up spending over $150. It's been said time and again that effectively pitching sales spiels is an art form. Salespeople know the importance of customizing one's lines for customers to get them hooked into a product and thus make money. Salespeople know the importance of knowing what makes people tick. They have learned how to manipulate people. Yes, manipulation is tantamount to exploitation, and it happens daily. It has become so common that people often fail to realize that they've been had. It has become so familiar that people no longer take a second look and just pass it off as another one of those days. The very reasons why this book was written. This book aims to discuss and shed some light on several conscious or unconscious manipulative tactics that people use in daily life. Through this book, you will learn how to avoid the pitfalls of a manipulative relationship, or to dig your way out of one if you're already in it. Manipulation versus influence. In each aspect of life, people make decisions that are influenced by one or several internal and external factors. These factors include the environment one lives in, the traditions he or she grew up with, adopted cultures, and the people one interacts with. This idea is true even for organizations, big or small. Influence is the key, the operative word. It is not uncommon, however, that in the process of making well-informed choices, manipulation by involved parties creeps into the picture. Manipulation can take on any form, ranging from bribery and corruption to exploitation. Influence and manipulation. How can two words that seem so similar be actually worlds apart in definition? The former gives off an aura of positivity and encouragement, whereas the latter connotes distrust, cynicism, and self-doubt. While influence is noble, manipulation is selfish. Often, these two words are confused with each other, and are even used interchangeably in verbal and written communication. The sad fact is that there seem to be more manipulative people than influential ones that we come across every day. How do I know when I'm being manipulated? Everyone asks this question, and rightly so. To best deal with manipulation, we first have to understand what it means and differentiate it from its close cousin, influence. The dictionary defines influence as the ability to cause something without directly forcing them to happen. On the other hand, manipulation is described as the manner to treat or operate with or as if with the hands or by mechanical means, especially in a skillful manner, to manage or utilize skillfully, to control or play upon by artful, unfair, or insidious means, especially to one's own advantage, or to change by artful or unfair means so as to serve one's purpose. These definitions tell us that both concepts aim to achieve a kind of change, but they also mark the line where the concepts begin to differ from each other. We look at these differences in the succeeding paragraphs. Knowing these differences marks the first step to overcome manipulators. Trick or treat. According to Dr. Alfred Adler's theory of personality development, the only powerful force that drives human behavior toward one absolute goal is the striving for success or superiority. He clarified that a person is striving for superiority if his or her ultimate goal is to gain control over others. However, individuals who strive for success do so because they have an advanced perception of social interest. The same can be said of manipulation and influence. The first difference between the two is their motivation. Manipulation is driven by the need to dominate and direct, whereas influence is fueled by the recognition of equality. Manipulators view themselves as puppeteers making their puppets, other people, dance to the music they want by pulling their strings. On the other hand, influential people see other people as partners, guiding them to choose the best music by starting a dance pattern. Clearly, one is a relationship of mutual respect, and the other is a relationship of dominance characterized by the lack of mutual respect. True or false? Communication between the manipulator and the manipulated is often limited to the former doing all the talking while the latter listens, trying to figure out how he got himself or herself in that situation to begin with. The idea is for the manipulator to provide as much information about the subject without giving the other a chance to ask questions about it. The somewhat controversial principle of full disclosure in accounting holds that any and all information related to the financial standing of an individual or organization must be completely made available. The idea is to minimize risks to stability by addressing pressing issues and finding solutions to anticipated problems. Such disclosure also gives the public, especially prospective investors and stock buyers, an unbiased opinion of the company. This same concept applies to a manipulative relationship. In differentiating between influence and manipulation, the amount of information provided is noteworthy. Manipulators are easy to spot through how much information they are willing to give. Does the person encourage open-ended questions, or does he or she limit the conversation to rhetorical inquiries? People who treat you as an intellectual equal give you a chance to process information, urge you to ask questions, and honor your decision. By contrast, those who aim to coerce you give you partial information, regulate your queries, and dismiss your objections. There is security in transparency, whereas uncertainty thrives in obscurity. Manipulators thrive on obscurity. Benefit or BS? In the process of full disclosure, both benefits and costs are discussed. Influencers highlight the benefits but are also prepared to defend the disadvantages when asked about them. Influencers talk about the gains both parties would achieve. On the other hand, manipulators display all the merits alongside the sugar-coated shortcomings. Manipulators present their suggestions in such a way that they seem to benefit the other party, but are, on closer inspection, detrimental. Manipulators are expert schemers. Does any of this sound familiar? Taking a look at the traits described above, would you describe any of your relationships as manipulative? Oftentimes, people that are manipulated suffer from not only one of these relationships, but rather suffer from several of them in their lives. They have manipulative mothers, are manipulated by co-workers on the job, and are manipulated by their bosses as well. These people try to do the right thing, but fall prey to manipulators. If this sounds like you, read on to learn how to deal with manipulative people today. Chapter 1, Manipulative Mothers. Mothers are known for their unconditional love and utmost tolerance, diligence, and perseverance. Any other positive descriptive could be used to sing their praises. Anyone with a caring personality is thought to be motherly. The mother is the light of the entire household. She is a virtuous woman that escorts her children through the rugged highway of life. She is the person an infant turns to when it is hungry. Her name is often the first word a baby utters. She is the one who gets called when a child trips and skins his or her knee. She is the one who understands a girl's first heartbreak and a boy's first rejection. She has become synonymous to comfort in our childhood. However, it is heartbreaking to know that some mothers as we grow older create manipulative relationships with their sons and daughters. I was forced to face this reality by a simple question from a friend when we attended a motivational symposium in college. The speaker, a man in his mid-50s, mentioned that he had learned the concept of sticking with what he started from a mother who always told him that she loved him. I turned my head to tell my friend something, but she beat me to it by speaking first. Has your mom ever hugged you? Or told you she loves you? Yes, I said without hesitation. She shrugged and said, mine did too, but only if I got good grades in school. I was shocked. I thought then that it was impossible. I always thought that her family was perfect, there were birthday parties, smiles all around. But all this time, my friend had been in a manipulative relationship. Her mother withheld love to get what she, her mother, wanted, good grades out of her daughter. Clearly, this whole family relationships had been a charade. For 9 months, the mother is the source of nourishment of the growing baby inside her. After birth, the infant still turns to the mother for sustenance. This simplest of relationships is something that the child understands and enjoys. This process strengthens the bond between the child and the mother. As the child grows, the relationship becomes complex, with the mother taking on different roles in the child's life, many times growing into a healthy adult relationship of mutual respect. But not all mother-child relationships progress into healthy ones. In the case of my friend who had love withheld by her mother, she sees her mother as an extension of her dad, present, but affectionate only when she needed something, and emotionally distant. She and her mother talk at the dinner table and discuss how their day was, but they have never talked about boys, fashion, and other girl things that some mothers and daughters share with each other. Now let's take a look at another friend's life. He grew up with an authoritative mother, who made sure that they're home by a certain time each night. She's the type who sits her children down to finish their homework, turns off the light when it's bedtime, and pushes her children to study and finish college. Of the 4 children in the family, my friend was the only one who dutifully obeyed his mother and graduated from university. When the time came for him to get a job, his mother went from one firm to another, handing them his resume. When he finally got a job, his mother bought him new clothes for work. Out of gratitude, he gave her his bank card. When he met a lady he liked, his mother gave him money to take her out for a date. When he realized that he wanted to marry her, his mother stopped him and said, "Who will take care of me now? Why are you leaving me?" Eventually, he married his girlfriend, got a better job, and hired someone else to care for his mom as she grew old and infirm. Promising that he would make sure that she's well provided for, he took back his bank card and instead gave her a monthly check to cover her expenses. Then she started getting sick and asked him to send more money for her medicines and even for house remodeling and new furniture. He reminded her that there's no need to buy new things for the house because the ones she owned were still in style and that remodeling her house was not really needed, but she insisted and said, "You grew inside me for 9 months, I gave birth to you, and I raised you, and I never once complained. I sacrificed my life to take care of you and your siblings, and you can't even give me nice things." Well, you can assume what happened next. This relationship disintegrated because the mother had set up a classic guilt trip, forcing her son into an unwinnable situation. We have already established at the beginning of this book that good manipulators read people well. Who can better read you than the person who gave birth to you, watched you grow, and attended to your needs and wants as a child? Mothers are experts at pulling their children's strings, and they know exactly which strategy to use to make you bend down. The victim complex. His mom made him feel the burden of what she had to go through to bring him up. She made herself look like she's the victim that he had to feel sorry for and comfort. Emotions are powerful weapons, and they can be very effective in blackmail, especially when done over the phone. Mothers can paint a bleak picture of their situation and thereby guilt their children into giving in to what they want. The tattletale. In the Hollywood movie Monster-in-Law, Jennifer Lopez's Charlotte goes head-to-head with Jane Fonda's Viola Fields after Charlotte gets engaged to Viola's only son, Kevin. Viola resorts to crazy schemes to end Kevin and Charlotte's relationship, but to no avail. And since it is Hollywood, all's well that ends well. Sadly, similar conflicts happen in real life, and the endings are not always good. When children enter into significant relationships or get married, their parents, mostly their mothers, consider their significant other as a rival. Some mothers-in-law do turn into monsters. These mothers want to regain their position as their children's number one, so they try to set one against the other. Others would call this process recruitment by proxy. The mother would plant a few careful words to sow hurtful seeds, and when confrontation arises, she would try to diffuse the situation by saying carefully measured words to force each party to choose sides. This strategy is used masterfully and executed with cunning. The false humility. Things do not always go according to the mother's plans, but she is always prepared with another trick up her sleeve. When found out and confronted about her schemes, she'd turn on the tears, cower in a corner, and say that she did them only because she knew no other way to address her issues or because of some other reason. I've heard one mother tell her daughter that she was just looking out for her and didn't want her hurt. This is characteristic of a manipulator, according to the description in Chapter 1. The mother's intentions are questionable, the information she gives is incomplete, and the benefits are one-sided. Her next step is to ask for forgiveness, often citing old age or loneliness, etc. Another strategy done with calculation. Chapter 2, Manipulative Co-workers. If you think that bullying happens only at school and among kids, think again. Bullying in schools has been widely discussed these days, but bullying in the workplace has not made any noise but continues to be a silent terrorist among employees. Workplace bullying is the act of singling out a person or specific group of people in the workplace for unreasonable, embarrassing, or intimidating treatment. Usually the bully is a person in a position of authority who feels threatened by the victim, but in some cases the bully is a co-worker who is insecure or immature. This problem can take on several forms, including manipulation among employees of equal rank. The Workplace Bullying Institute, an online organization that studies this growing issue, reported that, as of May 2013, at least a third of all employees in an office setting have been bullied. Unfortunately, unlike bullying, which is relatively easy to quantify, workplace manipulation is difficult to track. The misunderstood social butterfly. Like manipulative mothers, scheming co-workers act nice toward their intended target and present themselves as a victim. These schemers make themselves seem misunderstood and victimized to gain their target's trust. The unwitting target then makes it his or her job to cover for the victim, making sure that the victim is protected from others. This forms an exclusive bond between the two parties, with the manipulator effectively cutting off the target's contact with other employees by painting them in a bad light. The target then becomes the manipulator's personal pep squad, leaving the employee emotionally and mentally drained. Typically, the person being manipulated in this type of relationship at work is someone who is hardworking, trusting, and unfortunately, oftentimes easy prey to a manipulator. The manipulator sees the victim as the person who is always working late and the person who always tries to do the right thing. The manipulator, conversely, oftentimes is the one leaving early, skating by day to day, but occasionally has enough golden opportunities with the boss to make themselves the favored employees. Nearly always a gregarious and outgoing person, these manipulative people can be true terrors to those whom they manipulate. The Cunning Chameleon. In his book In Sheep's Clothing, Understanding and Dealing with Manipulative People, Dr. George Simon mentioned that manipulative people use different tactics to get their marks to do what they want them to. These tactics are often used in the workplace. Instigators are able to adapt the method that works best for their prey. These strategies include, but are not limited to, the following: denial/rationalization, claiming innocence over one's actions, justifying personal behavior; selective inattention, feigning stupidity, acting as if they do not know what they are doing; diversion, avoiding issues, refusing to face the problem head-on; lying, willful non-disclosure of relevant information, covert intimidation, making threats, giving hints of power tripping, usually leveraging their tenure, guilt tripping/shaming, casting doubts and anxiety over their prey, making the target feel unworthy, unimportant, and dispensable. Chapter 3: Manipulative Bosses. In the workplace, coercion by leaders is more common than rank-and-file bullying. Bosses often utilize manipulation to ensure that no power struggle happens within their teams. Manipulation is the boss's way of asserting power, a trait that manipulators strive for. Though bosses who are controlling may employ tactics similar to those used by their lower-ranked counterparts, they can be quite charismatic. They display a pleasant manner that belies their devious nature, and are well versed in mind games. The friendly non-friend. Such bosses often maximize their access to personnel profiles to build rapport with their staff, giving them the impression that they care and thereby ensuring their loyalty. These bosses know their subordinates' families, ask about their grandmothers, and even suggest anniversary gifts. They invite them out for coffee and schedule off-site meetings on the pretext of relieving their stress. Such bosses understand that obvious verbal abuse will destroy their reputation. Thus, they do it in an underhanded manner, still making it seem like they care about their employees' welfare. The subtle snake. However, not all bosses are wise. Some become too blatant in their manipulation that they use intimidation, vague threats, and humiliation to make their employees do what they want them to do. These bosses often use the excuse that keeping their people in line is the best way to manage a business, not caring at all for their workers' emotional well-being. These bosses often leave their people feeling stressed, pressured, unproductive, and anxious at work. Thus, interpersonal relationships in the workplace are left in shambles. Usually, these bosses are observed in the fields of information technology, academic research, banking and finance, and sales. It appears that the greater the pressure the workplace demands, the more manipulative people in high position become. These people often forget that the ones who make money for them are those who work below them. Theodore Roosevelt said it best: "The best executive is the one who has sense enough to pick good men to do what he wants done, and self-restraint enough to keep from meddling with them while they do it." Chapter 4: Manipulative Relationships. When starting a new relationship, both parties are always dreamy and starry-eyed, seeing only the positive in each other and thinking as though their partner could do no wrong. Sooner or later, they wake up to reality, thinking, "What went wrong? Was it something I did?" The more intimate the relationship, the greater the possibility for one party to manipulate the other. It is not uncommon to have couples wondering what happened to the bliss they felt at the start of their relationship. People may ask how they got to the point where they feel alone in carrying the burden of the relationship. This point is when they realize that what used to be a partnership has become a single proprietorship, with one partner acting as the controlling party while the other answered to his or her beck and call. Manipulation in romantic relationships often goes unnoticed until it's too late. Symptoms include gender-specific traits that at first seem cute but later become oppressive. The gift of guilt. While generosity is a welcome trait, a gift given one time too many is a surefire way to spot a manipulator in action. A coercive partner commonly makes the other partner feel bad about spending time with other people. Hours later, the tides change, and the manipulator gives a gift to make up for the guilt trip. Such manipulation is a form of bribery with guilt as the commodity and the gift as the currency. Clingy like saran wrap. Some men find it a source of pride when a woman declares herself incapable of living life without them. However, there comes a time when that opinion changes and they declare such inability unhealthy. It should be noted that a person who cannot maintain social function without another uses that person as a crutch to be integrated into society, rendering the relationship parasitic. Keeping intimacy hostage. Women believe that one way to keep their men under their control is to withhold sex until their demands are met. This restraint frustrates the men, who, incapable of coherent reasoning, agree to what the women ask. This behavior is not exclusive to women, though. Men also use sex to manipulate their partner's decisions. Chapter 5, Manipulate the Manipulator. Just because something isn't a lie does not mean that it isn't deceptive. A liar knows that he is a liar, but one who speaks mere portions of truth in order to deceive is a craftsman of destruction. Christiami. By now, you have probably realized that each relationship discussed in this book exhibits tactics similar to those used by manipulators to spin their prey around. As promised, this chapter helps you effectively deal with these tactics and use them to your advantage. Before any course of action is taken, you should remember that you are in control of your decisions. No one has the right to take that away from you. You have free will and are thus free to make your own decisions based on your own set of factors, not on others. The first step is to avoid being an easy victim. The target. The first step to stop people from controlling your life is to find out what they look for in a target person. Are you an easy mark? Is there something you can do about it? In the first part of this book, we discuss that manipulators aim to gain control and power over their targets. To do so, they identify your greatest vulnerability, which they determine by talking to you, getting to know you, and leading your answers by using guiding questions. Once they have this information, they easily figure out your desires or the things you are most afraid of losing. They then make it seem like they can help you achieve your ultimate goals when they are merely using you to further their own agenda. Full disclosure to oneself is also a necessity. People cannot completely escape from manipulative clutches if they keep blind spots. So, how to avoid being a target? First, ensure that you're comfortable in your own skin. If there are skeletons in your closet, own up to them, as these can always be used against you by a manipulator. There's no shame in admitting a mistake, even if it's an old one, and the fewer secrets in a relationship, either at work or at home, the better. Second, always be on the lookout for the person who says, if you can help me out with, fill in the blank, I'll be sure to keep, fill in the blank, secret from, the boss, your wife, your mother, etc. This is a classic manipulator setup, so be wary of it. If someone says something like this to you, you're about to be manipulated, so walk away. Captain of the ship. Once you've taken stock of yourself in this manner, it is time to take charge of the helm, so to speak. You alone control your thoughts and actions. Do not let anyone take that away from you. You do not need anyone's approval to be a better person. Your personality, looks, and traits and characteristics make the world a colorful place to live in. You are in charge of yourself and your life, and nobody else has the right to take advantage of you or your hard work. Establish goals. Individual psychology emphasizes having an ultimate goal to work toward. The creation of such a goal dictates the direction of one's behavior and social interests. Once the ultimate goal is in place, establish smaller, more achievable short-term and long-term goals and stick to them. It is important that they are realized. In this manner, make a definitive goal for you to not be manipulated by anyone ever again. This may sound obvious, but so many people try to improve their emotional and psychological well-being without goals. Would you train for a marathon without having a goal set? I'm going to finish the race in under 4 hours? Would you start a diet without a weight loss goal? Of course not. It's no different with your emotional well-being. Vocalize. Learn to express your thoughts, and not just in your own mind. Say it out loud. Refuse to be a puppet and stand your ground. Exercise your ability to communicate and be a part of the discussion. Your ideas are as important as anyone else's. If someone seems like they're withholding information, ask them for it. If they refuse to give it to you, This is a huge warning sign that this person is a manipulator. If someone wants to give you something in return for a favor, again, a huge warning sign of a manipulative relationship. This is the time to change your usual ayes to nays. In a society like ours, saying no is sometimes associated with weakness. This is not the case, however. Saying no does not make you less of a person. Don't let anyone guilt you into doing something. Stand your ground, learn to say no, and learn to walk away. If you are uncomfortable in saying no, practice in front of the mirror to get used to seeing yourself say no. It's good practice, especially for you. Like anything else, you need to practice to make it work in real life, and you need to start now. Stand your ground. Don't be swayed by empty threats and intimidations. People who use these tactics are generally just full of hot air and actually feel inadequate. To compensate for their inadequacy, they go to other people and belittle them. Let your no be no and your yes be yes. Refuse to be guilted into anything. Cut ties. If you have taken action but some people still refuse to honor your decision, then maybe it's time to cut them off your life. These are people that weigh you down and that you would not need when you move up. The space they will vacate is best reserved for people that lift you up, those that encourage growth, not step on it. It is a difficult decision, to be sure, but life is too short to be in a manipulative relationship, even with close family. If it's a co-worker, it's rather easy to avoid them altogether, but if it's your mother or father, this is a big decision to cut them off, and it is highly recommended to see professional help with a psychologist or psychiatrist. Conclusion. Manipulation is a problem that is felt, not seen. It is a problem that takes time to develop. Once the process starts, it becomes like a festering wound that, if left unchecked, develops into an infection that affects the whole body. If not treated right away, it breaks off relationships and creates distrust. In psychology, manipulation has presented different instances when it is effectively used to modify behavior in test subjects. However, used in a setting where there's competition among the parties involved, manipulation becomes unhealthy and disruptive. When my friend went shopping, she was ready to pick up only eyeliner from the makeup counter, but the sales lady manipulated her to thinking that she needed other, better products than what she already had. My friend had already been influenced to buy even if the lady stopped at offering her different eyeliner. However, the sales lady used the idea that my friend's makeup did not make her look good and thus manipulated her into buying a new jar of foundation and some mascara too. The sales lady disregarded my friend's weak refusal to purchase and kept pushing the basket into her hands, leaving her no choice but to make a purchase. Also, there was no full disclosure when my friend was sold the cosmetics. The lady should have mentioned that full coverage of the purchased foundation lasted only 8 hours, unlike that of the foundation my friend already owned, which lasted practically the whole day. The eyeliner she got was blue-gray instead of the black that she wanted, because no black eyeliner was available. There were benefits, but after comparing the new products she bought with her old ones, she realized that she'd been duped. The products had the same ingredients in similar proportions but were placed just in different bottles and packages. We can say then that the sales lady successfully manipulated her into buying things she didn't really need. In the case of the unaffectionate mom, since the mom will not change but the daughter can change how she perceives her mother, instead of looking at her as an extension of her father, she could start seeing her mother from a different angle and try to identify with her. As for the smothering mother, since she plays on the idea that her son owes her for the life he now lives, he has to lovingly confront his mother and learn to take a stand and set boundaries. He'd do it not because he wants to get rid of his mother but because it is time for his mother to live by herself and not spend too much time meddling in his life. She has to learn to let go, and the surefire way to teach her is to confront her with the fact that manipulation is unhealthy for both of them. Manipulators are Machiavellian. The important thing for them is to reach their goals, without caring about the means. They embody the saying, the end justifies the means. It takes practice to learn to stand up against expert manipulators, but it's never too late to start. Getting out of a coercive relationship is not easy, but it can be done. I truly hope that you found this book helpful and that you can take away positive messages to make the changes needed in your own life. I'm always looking for feedback for my books, so if you want to connect with me and give me your insights on my book, I'd really appreciate it. Tweet me Skullbug Books and I can't wait to hear from you. I'd also sincerely appreciate if you could leave me a review on Amazon for this box set of books. You can find this box set by following this link. Thanks so much. Video resources. These videos are hosted on educational website Udemy, an easy-to-use platform for online learning. All of these videos are created by experts and can augment your learning and teach you even more great ideas after you read this book. Working with difficult people. Course description. This Working with Difficult People training class teaches students to recognize and address situations with co-workers, staff, and supervisors that result from problematic behavior. Students will be introduced to strategies that proactively set the stage for a problem-free work environment and minimize the negative impact of difficult behaviors. Students will discover tools and techniques that promote realistic expectations, maintain a peaceful working environment, encourage constructive feedback, and help resolve conflict when it arises. Class goals. Explain the role of personality in the workplace. Explain the impact of difficult personalities. Illustrate the communication process. Describe the effects of broken communication. Apply constructive feedback and conflict resolution skills in a variety of situations. Formulate a set of proactive boundaries and consequences for given workplace situations. Learn methods for handling conflict when it occurs. A simple guide for starting a difficult conversation. Course description. Have you ever needed to have a difficult conversation, but didn't know where to start? Even though we may speak the same language, doesn't mean we will clearly understand each other. Learn why communication breaks down. This course will explain why this miscommunication occurs. Understand why nothing gets resolved and how to turn it around. If there are ever times you experience the same argument, time and time again, this course will help you get to the bottom of what you need, want and desire in your relationship. Learn how to prevent arguments and manage conflict. Our expectations of others largely determines how well interact and communicate with others. Unfortunately, people rarely communicate their expectations clearly. Who will benefit from this course? Anyone who wants to improve the quality of their relationships, workplace and project management. Romantic relationships. Marriage/long-term relationships. How to build an amazing support network. Course description. Techniques for building an amazing support network. Based on classic selling skills, learn about relevant, informative, timely and actionable snippets of data as your contribution to your network. Resolve difficult conflicts using the Flare-Share model. Evaluate the state of your relationships using the Wheel of Value. What are the requirements? Willingness to undertake self-appraisal and openness to learning. What am I going to get from this course? Over 9 lectures and 1 hour of content. Build an amazing support network. Understand what makes you valuable to others. Resolve any conflicts in your network relationships. Assess the status of relationships before improving or withdrawing. For further reading. Who's Pulling Your Strings? How to Break the Cycle of Manipulation and Regain Control of Your Life by Harriet Breaker. A powerful program to stop manipulators in their tracks. In Who's Pulling Your Strings? Dr. Harriet B. Breaker, New York Times best-selling author of The Disease to Please, explains how depression, low self-esteem, anger, and feelings of helplessness can be caused by relationships with manipulative people. She exposes the most common strategies used by manipulators, and through self-assessment quizzes, action plans, and how-to exercises, she helps you recognize and end the manipulative cycle for good. In Sheep's Clothing, Understanding and Dealing with Manipulative People by George K. Simon, Ph.D. Dr. George Simon knows how people push your buttons. Your children, especially teenagers, are expert at it, as is your mate. A coworker may quietly undermine your efforts while professing to be helpful, or your boss may prey on your weaknesses. Manipulative people have two goals: to win and to look good doing it. Often those they abuse are only vaguely aware of what is happening to them. In this eye-opening book, you'll discover 4 reasons why victims have a hard time leaving abusive relationships. The power tactics manipulators use to push their own agenda and justify their behavior. Ways to redefine the rules of engagement between you and an abuser. How to spot potential weaknesses in your character that can set you up for manipulation. 12 tools for personal empowerment to help you maintain greater strength in your relationships. Methods of Persuasion, How to Use Psychology to Influence Human Behavior by Nick Kolender. Best known for his viral video, Chat Roulette Mind Reading, Nick Kolender finally reveals his psychological secrets behind his mind-reading feats. Using revolutionary principles from cognitive psychology, Nick has developed ways to subconsciously influence people's thoughts, and his mind-reading demonstrations have been seen by over 1 million people across the globe. Methods of Persuasion reveals that fascinating secret for the first time and explains how you can use those principles to subconsciously influence people's thoughts in your own life. Drawing on cutting-edge research in psychology, the entire book follows a powerful persuasion process whose 7 steps form the acronym METHODS. Step 1, Mold their perception. Step 2, Elicit congruent attitudes. Step 3, Trigger social pressure. Step 4, Habituate your message. Step 5, Optimize your message. Step 6, Drive their momentum. Step 7, Sustain their compliance. This book teaches you the psychology behind each step and explains how you can use methods to influence people's thoughts, emotions, and behavior in any situation. How to Change Minds, The Art of Influence Without Manipulation by Rob Joss. Surely you know plenty of people who need to make a change, but despite your most well-intentioned efforts, they resist because people fundamentally fear change. As a salesman, father, friend, and consultant, Rob Joss knows this scenario all too well. Drawing on his highly successful sales background and decades of research, he lays out a simple, repeatable, predictable, and ethical process that enables you to lead others to discover for themselves what and why they need to change. Whether you hope to make a sale or improve a relationship, Joss's sound advice illustrated through a collection of sometimes funny, sometimes moving, always illuminating stories will help you ensure that changing someone's mind is never an act of coercion but rather one of caring and compassion. The Gaslight Effect, How to Spot on and Survive the Hidden Manipulation Others Use to Control Your Life by Dr. Robin Stern. Your husband crosses the line in flirting with another woman at a dinner party. When you confront him, he asks you to stop being insecure and controlling. After a long argument, you apologize for giving him a hard time. Your boss backed you on a project when you met privately in his office, and you went full steam ahead. But at a large gathering of staff including yours he suddenly changes his tune and publicly criticizes your poor judgment. When you tell him your concerns about how that criticism affects your authority, he tells you that the project is ill-conceived and that you have to be more careful in the future. You begin to question your competence. Your mother belittles your clothes, your job, your friends, and your boyfriend. But instead of fighting back as your friends encourage you to do, you tell them that your mother is often right and that a mature person should be able to take a little criticism. If you think things like these can't happen to you, think again. Gaslighting occurs when someone wants you to do what you know you shouldn't and to believe the unbelievable. It can happen to you and probably already has. How do we know? If you answer yes to even one of the following questions, you've probably been gaslighted. Does your opinion of yourself change according to approval or disapproval from your spouse? When your boss praises you, do you feel as if you could conquer the world? Do you dread having small things go wrong at home, such as buying the wrong brand of toothpaste, not having dinner ready on time, or writing an appointment wrong on the calendar? Gaslighting is an insidious form of emotional abuse and manipulation that is difficult to recognize and even harder to break free from. That's because it plays into one of our worst fears, that of being abandoned, and many of our deepest needs, to be understood, appreciated, and loved. In this groundbreaking guide, prominent therapist Dr. Robin Stern shows how the gaslight effect works and tells you how to turn on your gaslight radar so you know when a relationship is headed for trouble. Determine whether you are enabling a gaslighter. Recognize the 3 stages of gaslighting: disbelief, defense, and depression. Refuse to be gaslighted by using the 5 rules for turning off the gas. Develop your own gaslight barometer so you can decide which relationships can be saved and which you have to walk away from. Learn how to gas-proof your life so that you'll never be in another gaslighting relationship. Online resources. How to handle manipulators. http://www.psychologytoday.com/blog/lifetime-connections/201403/how handle manipulators. The precipice, influence and manipulation. Which way will you fall? http://www.toddnelson.com/international leadership blogathon/the precipice, influence and manipulation. On which way will you fall / Is your boss a bully or a manipulative leader? http://www.kathleenbartle.com/is your boss a bully or a manipulative leader / Manipulation Tactics, A Closer Look by George Simon. http://www.manipulativepeople.com/manipulation tactics, A Closer Look /